Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Sandhayak. Coming up in the next hour. Days after airstrikes and deadly bloodshed, Israel and Syria agree to ceasefire. Announcement made by US envoy Tom Barrack. Syrian leader Ahmed al-Shara urges parties to respect it. Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 rebel group sign a declaration of principles in Qatar. Peace deal aims to end fighting in eastern Congo. US President Donald Trump sues Wall Street Journal and Murdoch over Epstein article, denies report, calls it scam. And rain delays second ODI between India women and England women at Lord's. Inform Indian team a series winning lead in the decisive penultimate match. Days of unrest in South Syria has finally been halted as the conflicting parties announced ceasefire on Saturday. The Syrian presidency has urged all parties to respect the ceasefire and avoid further violence. More in this report.
The Syrian government announced an immediate ceasefire in the southern Syrian city of Sweda on Saturday as Interior Ministry forces deployed in the Druze majority province under a US brokered deal with Israel. The presidency called on all parties to fully respect the truce, which came after Israel bombed Defense Ministry forces on Wednesday, which had been deployed to the southern province earlier this week to force their withdrawal.
We thank
the tribes for the heroic positions, but we call on them to fully commit to ceasing fire and complying with state orders. And everyone must understand that this moment requires unity of ranks and complete cooperation in order to overcome what we are all going through.
Earlier on Friday, US envoy Tom Barrack stated that both the parties involved in the conflict have agreed to a truce. Barrack, who is both the US ambassador to Turkey and Washington's Syria envoy, stated that the ceasefire was embraced by Turkey, Jordan, and neighbors. He also urged Druze, Bedouins, and Sunnis to put down their weapons and together with other minorities build a new and united Syrian identity. Though Israeli military will continue to bring back the civilians who entered into Syria after hundreds of Druze were seen crossing the border in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, members of the Druze community appealed for the protection of their families in the neighboring country. Israel aims to protect Syria's Druze minority while also saying it wants areas of South Syria near its border to remain demilitarized. Syria's Sweda province has been engulfed by nearly a week of violence, which began with clashes between Bedouin fighters and Druze factions before drawing in government security forces that were sent to the area by Damascus. Close ties between the Israeli state and its 150,000 Druze citizens, strengthened by the fact that Druze men serve in the Israeli army, are one of the reasons for Israel's deepening involvement in Syria. Bureau Report, DD India.
President Donald Trump has announced that another 10 hostages will be released from Gaza shortly, lauding the efforts of US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Trump made this comment during a dinner with lawmakers at the White House, expressing optimism that this process will be completed quickly.
Gaza, we got most of the hostages back. We're going to have another 10 coming very shortly, and we hope to have that finished pretty quickly. And Steve Witkoff has been fantastic. He's done a great job in that. He's a very good man, good deal maker. I said I need a good deal maker with a good personality, and there aren't too many of them, but Steve is, and he's done a great job.
Israeli and Hamas negotiators have been taking part in the latest round of ceasefire talks in Doha since July 6, discussing a US-backed proposal for the 60-day ceasefire. The truce proposal calls for 10 hostages held in Gaza to be returned along with the bodies of 18 others, spread out over 60 days. In exchange, Israel would release a number of detained Palestinians. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz met with U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon on Friday. Katz praised President Trump's brave and historic decision to strike Iran's nuclear facilities in June. The meeting comes after Israel launched strikes against Syrian government forces in southwestern Syria earlier this week.
We stand firmly with Israel, committed to reinforcing your right to self-defense. And whether it's new capabilities, that defense, or a lasting peace, we look forward to working together even more.
I would like to express just how much I'm impressed with Operation Midnight Hammer. It was a brave and historic decision by President Trump. Together, we destroyed the Iranian nuclear program. We destroyed the Iranian nuclear.
U.S. President Donald Trump has filed a $10 billion defamation lawsuit in Miami's federal court against the Wall Street Journal, its parent companies Dow Jones and News Corp, Rupert Murdoch, and 2 reporters. The suit targets a July 17 report alleging Trump sent Jeffrey Epstein a 2003 birthday letter with a suggestive drawing and a reference to shared secrets. Trump, denying the report on Truth Social, called it a scam and vowed to make Murdoch testify. The unverified claim fuels scrutiny of Trump's Epstein ties amid conspiracy theories among his base. Trump's administration faced backlash after a July 7 Justice Department memo denied an Epstein client list exists. Meanwhile, the U.S. government filed a motion to unseal grand jury transcripts related to the late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In a filing in Manhattan federal court, the Department of Justice said the criminal cases against Epstein and his former associate Ghislaine Maxwell are a matter of public interest, justifying the release of associated grand jury transcripts. All right, and DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre is joining us live on this story. Hi, Akshay. Very good afternoon to you. Can you just tell us, to begin with, Akshay, break it down for us as far as Jeffrey Epstein is concerned? You know, what is the matter and how it started and how it popped up suddenly in Wall Street Journal?
Well, it has been going on for a lot of years now, Siddharth. It's also perhaps one of the most burning issue that surrounds the domestic politics of the United States of America, especially when you talk about a list that was promised by Donald Trump even before elections, that the Jeffrey Epstein list will be made public now. If I break it down for everyone, for our viewers,
yes,
and that what exactly is this entire matter about. Jeffrey Epstein was a Hollywood personality who was later accused of running an entire pedophilia network, of having an island, or rather he had an island which was named Jeffrey Epstein Island, and the Epstein Island apparently and allegedly used to host parties where big shot leaders from political parties, top Hollywood stars, and a lot of popular TV personalities and other popular people used to go, including billionaires, used to go to that island. And there are allegations that many of them may also have indulged in prostitution and even pedophilia on several accounts. Okay. And Jeffrey Epstein has been running an entire network of getting in young girls from around the world, especially in the US, from colleges and schools, to be lured into this network and to be presented to the billionaires then who would go on to have sexual who would rather go on to harass these girls sexually. So this entire matter has been going on for far too long. Then later Jeffrey Epstein was he committed suicide. That is the reason that was stated after his death. However, many questioned his death as well as a political murder, because a lot of people could have gotten exposed in this entire pedophilia ring. And that exactly is a list we are talking about now, Siddharth, that was promised to be made public before Donald Trump became the president for the second time. That was one allegation that even the Republicans have been leveling against the Democrats, that the reason the Jeffrey Epstein list is not being made public is because many of the perhaps Democrat leaders are also involved in it. And that was the promise that was made ahead of the elections. And now the White House has gone a complete 180-degree turn on this entire thing, saying that there is no list that exists. And we have seen what has happened between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, where Elon accused Donald Trump of being in that list. So it's an entire issue that is surrounding the domestic politics of the US, and it's going to continue for at least some foreseeable future.
Indeed. Akshay, Department of Justice has also ordered federal court to actually release the papers, if I'm not wrong. But apart from everything, what's with the birthday letter of 2003? What's the story going around with it?
Well, a lot has been shared about it, but as far as Rupert Murdoch is concerned, the media baron, he has been accused by Donald Trump that the kind of allegations that have been made in the newspaper as well as in this entire matter, they have been false. And since Rupert Murdoch is the head of he's a media baron, he has rather in a way indirectly or radically accused Donald Trump of being associated with Jeffrey Epstein at close proximity. Donald Trump has said that all the allegations are false, and has in fact sued Rupert Murdoch for $10 billion in defamation.
Definitely. Any updates, Akshay, that President Trump has now sued Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch? Any update regarding this? He has sued for $10 billion US. That's a lot of money. Do you have any updates on this, or it's just
well, that's the
right
update, Siddharth. That's the amount, and for that amount only, Donald Trump has sued Rupert Murdoch. So that's about it. There is no more speculation going into this, because that's now a fact.
Got it.
Indeed.
All right, Akshay, this is developing. We'll keep taking you on air. We'll keep taking updates from you. But as of now, we leave with that. Thank you so much. Moving on. Over 200 Venezuelans who were deported from the United States on allegations of gang membership earlier this year and detained in an El Salvador jail arrived home to Caracas on Friday. The release was a part of coordinated prisoner exchange with 10 Americans held in Venezuela returned to the United States, where ended a months-long ordeal decried by rights group. Venezuela's government said 252 Venezuelans held in El Salvador had been freed. President Nicolas Maduro celebrated the arrival of 2 airplanes carrying them near Caracas on Friday evening. And as more updates, these 10 Americans are the Americans and permanent citizens as well. The Venezuelans were sent to El Salvador from the United States in March after US President Trump invoked the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to swiftly deport alleged members of the Tren de Aragua gang without going through normal immigration procedures. They were held in El Salvador's notorious CECOT or CECOT maximum security prison. Venezuelan President Maduro thanked US President Trump for making it happen. In a significant development on European asylum policy, Germany and 5 European nations have agreed to tighten asylum rules across the EU, including making deportations to Afghanistan and Syria standard practice. The decision was reached during a high-level meeting led by German Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt with his European counterparts from France, Poland, Austria, the Czech Republic and Denmark. The new goals pending Brussels approval also propose the removal of legislative barriers to transfer rejected asylum seekers to secure centers outside the EU and to conduct asylum procedures in third countries.
We want to significantly strengthen deportation regulations. This includes making it possible for so-called return hubs to be created, including in third countries, where people who are required to leave the country can also be accommodated outside of Europe.
untergebracht werden können.
And still to come on the India NewsHour. As the Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 rebel group signed declaration of principles in Qatar to end fighting in eastern Congo, we will discuss in details about it. Brazilian police raided Jair Bolsonaro's home. South Korea's jailed ex-president Yoon Suk-yeol indicted on additional charges. You're watching the India NewsHour. I am Sandhayak Bharadwaj. The Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 rebel group signed in Qatar on Saturday a declaration of principles to end fighting in eastern Congo. The declaration was signed between representatives from both sides in Doha. The declaration includes an agreement for an immediate ceasefire, outlines a commitment to begin formal negotiations on a comprehensive peace agreement in the near future. It also includes a roadmap for restoring state authority in eastern DRC. Eastern DRC has been racked by conflict for more than 3 decades now, creating a humanitarian crisis and forcing hundreds of thousands of people from their homes. Thousands of people were killed in M23 offensive earlier this year, which saw the rebels capture the key provincial capitals of Goma and Bukavu. All right, and to discuss more on this, I've been joined by Professor Rahul Misha from School of International Studies, JNU. Sir, a very warm welcome to the broadcast, first of all. Now that peace deal has been signed between DRC and M23 rebels, what do you think of this deal? Number one. Number two, break it down for a viewer, sir. What led to this massive fighting between these two? What is the root cause of this problem? Or what is the root cause of this particular fighting between these two groups?
Thank you, Mr. Bharadwaj. I think the significance of this agreement lies in the fact that over past 3 decades, thousands of people have been killed along both sides, both DRC, that is Congo, and the Rwandan side. M23 is an offshoot of basically a rebel group supported by Rwanda. So the significance is that this is an icebreaker. This opens up new avenues for a peaceful settlement of disputes that the two sides have and a resolution of a long-standing conflict. We understand that the terms of this agreement are not out yet. We don't know the roadmap and what are the technical details of it, intricacies of it. So that is one flaw, I would say, but a great beginning nonetheless. And I think the contribution that Qatar has made in this, in brokering this deal, in mediating, and also President Donald Trump has also claimed that he is also been mediating. So the American intervention also is a good move, I would say, in bringing peace in Africa, especially surrounding countries, Congo and Rwanda. So far as the genesis of this conflict is concerned, one has to go back to 1994 Rwanda genocide, which is it is essentially between these two countries, bordering countries between Hutu and Tutsis. And over a period of time, so the Rwandan civil war led to the rise of this majoritarian Hutu majority people. And according to the Rwandan official documents, they claim that 1 million people were massacred during this civil war, and 500,000 women were raped, and mass violence and assault and hostilities against these people. The M23 group, which came after the civil war, is basically to take revenge of atrocities done to their people. So it has an ethnic component to it. It is very deeply rooted in these ethnic divisions that we see in Rwanda and in a wider context between Congo and Rwanda. So this has led to the long-standing conflict and perpetual conflict and disturbed region for all these years. So I think understanding the concerns of Rwandans, of M23, of the causes that they are fighting for on one side, and from the Congo side, the stability of this region and ensuring that the M23 forces do not go beyond Eastern Congo. They have already occupied the largest city in Eastern Congo, and they are moving very fast in that direction. So this will lead to greater instability in Congo as such. So I think both these countries are affected by this, and peace is the only way out. Dialogue is the only way out, I think, in this context.
Definitely, I agree with you. Peace is the only way out. Now the peace deal has been signed between the two, but the big question here is, will it be a lasting peace? What is your reaction on that?
That's a tough one, because in any dispute between two countries, when it involves the ethnic communities, ethnic conflict, it is never something cast in stone. It is never a final agreement, because these perceived injustice on both sides. On the Congo side, the point that this has happened long back, in 30 years, 3 decades back, and why are people suffering in eastern part of Congo because of these rebels? And on the Rwandan side, their question is, why was this injustice done to them by the militia? So I think this perceived injustice and relative deprivation because of the ongoing conflict is something that will keep on simmering. But it will definitely put a halt to the ongoing conflict. So the minimum that is expected is no civilian casualties or military even, number one. Second, greater peace would lead to, I think, more stabilization in the region. And maybe these countries, if they are rational enough, and if substantive offers are made to the rebel side, I think this agreement will last some more years. And I think Qatar is a country which is repeatedly working on building its image as a mediator, as a peace broker, following Swiss and the Scandinavian model. So I think they will also be interested in making sure that the region remains stable and these two countries are at peace with each other, involving M23. So I think Qatar has a lot of responsibility and stakes here in this context.
You've just mentioned, Professor Misha, you've just mentioned that Qatar is building its image as a mediator, in conflicts like Israel and Hamas, and now this DRC and M23. What is Qatar getting out of it? Why it is firm on building its image as a mediator?
See, Qatar, these are the dilemmas of countries that are rich and at the same time small. So small power diplomacy of rich countries always hinges on these normative elements, whether it is Switzerland or Singapore. Remember, Singapore also tried to act as a mediator between the US and North Korea. I mean, that was the height of a small country punching above its weight. But on normative counts, on bringing peace in between two countries or in a particular region, I think this is a successful model, the Swiss or Scandinavian model, even Singaporean model. So Qatar wants to project its image as a peacemaker, as a mediator in conflict zones, first to, of course, elevate its position in the global system.
Okay.
Second, have more agency within their own region, have more agency. So it is, of course, having greater normative influence over the international system. And we must not forget that Qatar is also a non-NATO ally of the US. So they work very close in coordination with the US.
Sir, very quickly, do you think this deal will now attract Western investment? Because the region is rich in tantalum, gold, cobalt, copper, lithium, and other minerals as well.
Yeah, that's a statement, that came from Donald Trump, and he indicated that there is a lot of opportunity for investment. But I don't think the time is ripe yet.
Okay, all
Wait
right.
some more time.
Okay, we have to wait for it. Okay. Okay, thank you so much, sir, for joining in on the broadcast. We leave it there as of now. Thank you. Brazilian police raided Jair Bolsonaro's home on Friday as a judge imposed further restrictions on the far-right former leader while he stands trial on coup charges that have vexed U.S. President and ally Donald Trump. His son Eduardo Bolsonaro lashed out at Supreme Court Judge Alexandra de Moraes, a Bolsonaro adversary who on Friday ordered the ex-president to wear an electronic ankle bracelet, not leave his home at night or use social media. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced Friday Washington was revoking a U.S. visa for judicial officials for his political witch hunt against Jair Bolsonaro. In another update, Brazilian President Lula Silva has signaled he may seek re-election in 2026, saying he would run if his health and motivation remain strong. Lula, who's 78 years old, said he would make a final decision after speaking with his conscience and vowed not to let a handful of lunatics return to power, a clear reference to supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro. His remarks came just hours after Brazil's federal police raided Bolsonaro's home and party headquarters. Brazil is due to hold its next general election in 2026. South Korea's jailed ex-president Yoon Suk-yeol was indicted on additional charges as a special prosecutor continues investigating him for his short-lived declaration of martial law in December. The new charges include obstruction of the exercise of other rights by abuse of authority, ordering the deletion of records and blocking the execution of arrest warrants. The prosecutor's office said in a briefing, Yoon has been on trial on charges of insurrection, which is in fact punishable by death or life imprisonment, facing additional charges since the special prosecutor was appointed in June to take over the cases against him. The impeached and deposed former leader has been jailed at Seoul Detention Center since earlier this month, and a court earlier this week rejected his request to be freed from detention. Cuba removes age limit for presidential candidates in reform approved by the National Assembly. The 2019 constitution had set it at 60 for the first-time contenders. The 5-year term, renewable once, and the minimum age of 35 remain unchanged. The communist-ruled island's restriction of 2 5-year presidential terms and minimum age of 35 for candidates were left unchanged. Former President Raul Castro, who at age 94 still holds a seat in the assembly, was the first to vote for the reform that will be on the books for the 2028 presidential elections. The inclusion of term and age limits in the 2019 constitution marked a radical shift after the 6 decades in which Fidel Castro and his brother Raul were in power. The nation of nearly 10 million people is suffering its worst economic crisis in 3 decades, with shortages of all kinds of supplies, power outages, and unprecedented immigration. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. India's first bullet train set to commence operations by August or September 2027, says Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. We will tell you about Youth Spiritual Summit aimed at fostering a collective national resolve against drug abuse being held in India's Varanasi. We'll also tell you about the weather updates from parts of the world.
This week, we meet people who are confronting complex environmental challenges. They are trying to find smart and steady ways to restore balance.
One of the projects for BNHS is to conservation breeding of falcons and goshawk, and then release that population after breeding, release that population back in the urban atmosphere like Mumbai.
We're trying to widen and deepen the rivers to increase water flow capacity. But residents must help too, by preventing the accumulation of garbage, which is a problem across Jakarta.
In this NFT channel, we use net cups with cocoa peats on it. This helps to penetrate the roots. There will be nutritious water flowing through the channel that supplies essential nutrients for the plant, and the remaining nutritious water gets channeled back to the water tank.
You're watching DD NewsHour. I'm Sandhayak and a quick recap of the headlines. Days after airstrikes and deadly bloodshed, Israel and Syria agree to ceasefire. Announcement made by US envoy Tom Barrack. Syrian leader Ahmed al-Shara urges parties to respect it. Democratic Republic of Congo and M23 rebel groups sign a declaration of principles in Qatar. Peace deal aims to end fighting in eastern Congo. US President Donald Trump sues Wall Street Journal and Murdoch over Epstein article, denies report, calls it scam. India's Minister for Railways, Information and Broadcasting and Electronics and Information Technology, Ashwini Vaishnav, announced that India's first bullet train is set to commence operations by August or September 2027. Speaking at the 14th convocation of IIT Hyderabad, Minister Ashwini Vaishnav highlighted India's rapid progress under the Make in India initiative, positioning the country as a global leader in manufacturing and technology.
Train project is also rapidly progressing. We should see a bullet train running in 2027. It's a huge change which has happened because of Make in India program of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. And that builds the foundation for an industry which provides employment, which provides design opportunities, and which builds a totally new ecosystem for our country.
The minister also emphasized that India will soon be among the top 5 semiconductor nations in the world, underscoring India's rapid progress in the chip manufacturing and tech infrastructure development.
Made in India chip, manufactured in India chip on a commercial scale will be manufactured in this year 2025. The way we have created the talent pool, the way we are promoting the design, and the way we are going deeper into the capital equipment and the materials required for semiconductors, India will become one of the top 5 semiconductor nations in the world.
A youth spiritual summit aimed at fostering a collective national resolve against drug abuse is being held in India's Varanasi. Themed Drug-Free Youth for a Viksit Bharat 2-day event aims to free youth from addiction and empower nation building. The summit brought together more than 600 young participants representing 122 spiritual and socio-cultural organizations from all over the country. Speaking at the event, Minister Dr. Mandaviya stressed that India can become developed only if youth stay away from drugs as well as mobile and reels addiction. The summit will conclude on July 20th with the release of the Kashi Declaration.
अपनी मन की बात में और सार्वजनिक कार्यक्रम में देश के युवा एडिक्शन से दूर रहे, नशा मुक्त हो, उसके लिए बात कही कि हम सब लोग सामूहिक तौर पर एक संकल्प करें, एक कार्ययोजना बनाए, एक कार्ययोजना 5 साल तक इंप्लीमेंट करके हम विकसित भारत में युवाओं को नशा मुक्त होके अपना कंट्रीब्यूशन करने के लिए प्रेरित करें.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi today shared an article that highlights how the Yuva Spiritual Summit marks a major step in building a drug-free India. Responding to a post by Union Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandaviya on X, PM Modi said, Union Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandaviya elaborates on how the Yuva Spiritual Summit marks a major step in building a drug-free India. Have a read. India's Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal, while addressing the session Creating Global Impact Towards Viksit Bharat organized by ASSOCHAM, emphasized that India will enter into international trade agreements only if they serve the country's interests. The minister said that the government will never allow a national interest to be compromised with any country.
Clearly articulated that our negotiation strategy hinges on national interest. At no point of time will the Modi government ever allow national interest to be compromised. That is a given. That is the pillar on which all negotiations, all discussions, all dialogue with any country in the world is taken forward.
Finance chiefs from the group of 20 countries highlighted the importance of central bank independence in a communique issued on Friday following a two-day meeting in South Africa's coastal city of Durban. The ministers and central bankers pledged to strengthen cooperation, marking their first joint communique since October 2024. Central bank autonomy featured prominently in the talks amid market concerns over Trump's repeated criticism of U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell for not cutting interest rates. The communique was agreed in the absence of U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. The U.S. delegation was led by Michael Kaplan, acting Under Secretary for International Affairs.
In contestations about central banks around the globe, it was pronouncements were also made in Europe. And at the meeting of the IMF in Washington in April, the issue of central bank independence came very strongly there. Unfortunately, there was no communique at that time.
The G20 finance ministers and central bank governors meeting concluded in South Africa with leaders gathered to discuss pressing global economic issues. DD India's correspondent Nazneen Ismail caught up with Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India there. Take a listen.
Global economic uncertainty, India's voice continues to rise with quiet confidence. I caught up with Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India, Dr. Venkatraman Ananda Nageshwaran, who's helping shape not just India's fiscal path, but conversations across the G20.
India continues to articulate some of the issues that are common to the developing world and also obviously for India as well. One is how will we assimilate and integrate technology while creating jobs such as artificial intelligence, etc. I think the way in which global South countries can collaborate is to pool their human resources and look at creating R&D, because supply chain vulnerabilities arise from dependence on single sources, and obviously the answer to that is to do what today's dominant supply chain countries have done, which is to invest in technology, invest in R&D, invest in human resources. And if individual countries are somewhat fiscally strapped, it is important to tap into the private sector, but also collaborate and pool the intellectual and human resources to be able to create supply chain resilience. This not only involves understanding each country's strengths in terms of physical resource endowments, etc., but also human resource endowments. And these are the areas through which I think South Africa and India can collaborate.
Two nations, one conversation. India's economic wisdom meets South Africa's warm diplomacy. That was Dr. Nageshwaran, and I'm Nazneen for DD India, connecting continents through conversation.
On to weather updates. Heavy rains continue to affect multiple states in India, causing floods, submerging riversides and disrupting daily life. In Karnataka, Dakshin Kannada district is experiencing rainfall, forcing the district administration to declare a leave for all schools and colleges in Mangaluru, Ulal and Bantwal taluks as a safety measure. In Rajasthan, the Anasagar Chowpatty area of Ajmer is flooded after the Anasagar Lake overflowed, inundating residential areas. Further, in Uttar Pradesh, the rising water level of River Ganga has submerged ghats in Prayagraj, causing concerns for pilgrims and residents. Similarly, in Varanasi, the ghats of Banaras are underwater as the river continues to swell due to upstream rains. South Korea remains affected by relentless torrential rains now into the fourth consecutive day, with devastating impacts across the country. Nearly 3,000 people remain displaced, while livestock have been left stranded in floodwaters. So far, 4 people have died and 2 are still missing. As emergency teams continue search and rescue operations, the southeastern region of Hapcheon County has been particularly hard hit, with flash floods inundating roads and forcing evacuations in low-lying areas. Local schools have been turned into emergency shelters to accommodate evacuees. Weather officials warn that the rain will persist until Monday, keeping most of the country under landslide and flood warnings. Authorities are urging residents to exercise extreme caution. And in France, nearly 1,000 firefighters and helicopters battled the blaze about 40 kilometers from Marseille. Officials stated that cooler temperatures and higher humidity had helped improve conditions. An eyewitness recorded dense smoke billowing from the wildfire, filming the scene from a window in the city as plumes rose above the surrounding hills. Pierre Bepois, the Colonel of Rescue Operations and Deputy Director for the area's firefighters, said 150 people had been evacuated, but firefighters had managed to save 150 homes and portions of the area's forest. As Canada faces one of its most devastating wildfire seasons, authorities stated that over 13.6 million acres have been scorched this year, an area comparable in size to the entire country of Croatia. As per the official figures, Canada has counted some 3,000 wildfires in 2025, with 561 burning as of Friday. A Canadian official stated that while wildfire damage is high this year, the fire activity is following a more typical seasonal pattern. Elevated temperatures and dry conditions made spring challenging, especially in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Although the fire intensely eased in June, officials warned that the next 2 months are usually the most active, with favorable burning conditions expected in areas like British Columbia. And still to come on Indian NewsHour. What is Genius Act? Stay to know more. Dream day for India. 4 Indian women are in the quarterfinals of Women's Chess World Cup.
This week, we meet people who are confronting complex environmental challenges. They are trying to find smart and steady ways to restore balance.
One of the projects for BNHS is to conservation breeding of falcons and goshawk, and then release that population after breeding, release that population back in the urban atmosphere like Mumbai.
We're trying to widen and deepen the rivers to increase water flow capacity. But residents must help too, by preventing the accumulation of garbage, which is a problem across Jakarta.
In this NFT channel, we use net cups with cocoa peats on it. This helps to penetrate the roots. There will be nutritious water flowing through the channel that supplies essential nutrients for the plant, and the remaining nutritious water gets channeled back to the water tank.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. The Indian Navy's indigenously designed and constructed survey vessel INS Sandhayak's maiden visit to Port Klang, Malaysia, concluded on Saturday. The visit aimed to strengthen hydrographic cooperation and technical exchanges between India and Malaysia. The maiden visit of the ship to Port Klang also strengthened institutional ties via concerted cooperation like sharing of survey technologies and sustained hydrographic support engagements. The visit demonstrates India's growing role in regional hydrographic capacity building under the Indian Naval Hydrographic Department and National Hydrographic Office framework. US President Donald Trump signed a law to create a regulatory regime for dollar-pegged cryptocurrencies known as stablecoins, a milestone that could pave the way for digital assets to become an everyday way to make payments and move money. The bill, dubbed as Genius Act, passed in the House of Representatives by a vote of 308 to 122, with support from nearly half the Democratic members and most Republicans. It had earlier been approved by the Senate. The law is a huge win for crypto supporters who have long lobbied for such a regulatory framework in a bid to gain greater legitimacy for an industry that began in 2009 as a digital Wild West famed for its innovation and speculative chaos.
And with today's signing, we're pushing even further into the exciting new frontier. Just as I promised last year, the Genius Act creates a clear and simple regulatory framework to establish and unleash the immense promise of dollar-backed stable coins. This could be perhaps the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the internet itself. A lot of people are saying that.
Stablecoins are designed to maintain a constant value, usually a 1:1 US dollar peg, and their use has exploded, notably by crypto traders moving funds between tokens. And also, Microsoft has halted the use of China-based engineers for technical support of US Defense Department systems following a ProPublica report exposing the practice. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth confirmed the outsourcing and vowed no future Chinese involvement in DoD cloud services. Microsoft's Frank Shaw stated that the company has adjusted its support to exclude China-based teams. Senator Tom Cotton urged an investigation, prompting Hegseth to order a 2-week review to ensure no similar issues exist across the DoD. Hegseth emphasized the need to counter digital threats and thanked the media for highlighting the issue, ensuring robust protection of military infrastructure. Time now for sport updates. Heavy rain and a wet outfield have delayed the start of play in the second women's ODI at Lord's between England and India. Play was due to get underway at 15:30 IST, with India holding a 1-0 lead in the 3-match series following a 4-wicket win at Southampton on Wednesday. These matches against England are crucial as they serve as a key preparation for the ICC Women's ODI World Cup, which India will host later this year. India's scripted history as all 4 players, Koneru Hampi, Harika Dronawalli, Vaishali Ramesh Babu and Divya Deshmukh, booked their spots in the quarterfinals of FIDE Women's World Cup in Georgia. Hampi beat Switzerland's Alexandra in the tie-breaks in Batumi City. Hampi will take on Yuxin Song for a place in the semi-finals. Vaishali also overcame Marwart of Kazakhstan. Her quarterfinal opponent will be Tan Hongyi. Harika lost the first game against Russia's Katerina Lagno before bouncing back to win the match. She will meet Divya in an all-Indian quarterfinal. Divya stunned Zhu Jina of China in the pre-quarterfinals by winning the first game and securing a draw in the return leg. The tournament offers 3 spots in FIDE Women's Candidates Tournament, set to take place in the first half of 2026. Spain reached the semi-finals of Women's Euro Cup after battling past Switzerland 2-0 as the world champions continued their bid for the first ever European crown. Athenia Del Castillo and Claudia Pena scored the goals in the second half in Bern City, but Spain did not have their way throughout the match as hosts Switzerland put up a brave fight. The Swiss had never progressed past the group stage of Euros before, and at the end, Spain proved to be too much for the team ranked 23rd in the world. They will face either France or Germany on Wednesday for a berth in the final. IMA Sports Conclave 2025 took place in Delhi on Friday, bringing together key voices from the world of sports, business and technology. The conclave hosted insightful sessions on sports financing, digital fan engagement, esports, women-led ventures and regional content creation. A report by DD India correspondent Narayan Singh.
India is bidding to host the 2036 Olympic Games, and the government is leaving no stone unturned to make it a grand success. As a part of this push, government has urged corporates, startups to actively participate in the Olympic movement and support the country's sporting ecosystem. In line with this vision, IMA took a significant step by bringing together athletes, coaches and brands and industry leaders under one roof. The IMA Sports Conclave 2025 was held in Delhi and served as a platform to spark conversation around the future of Indian sports. Addressing the gathering, Minister of State for Corporate Affairs Harsh Malhotra described India's new sports policy as a game changer.
आज 13-14 साल का बच्चा इंटरनेशनल इवेंट खेल सकता है, तो उसके लिए एक बड़ा प्लेटफॉर्म मोदी जी के मार्गदर्शन में हमारे देश में नेशनल स्पोर्ट्स पॉलिसी 2025 जो अभी 1 जुलाई को आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने उसकी अनुमति कैबिनेट ने दी है, तो मैं समझता हूं कि ये बड़ा गेम चेंजर होगा.
The conclave featured insightful sessions on key areas such as sports financing, digital fan engagement, esports, women-led ventures, and regional content creation. Each session highlighted the need to strengthen the overall sports ecosystem in India.
No athlete can rise without the right grassroots. No league can grow without the fan culture or fandom. No policy can work unless the private sector builds on it, and no investment makes sense without long-term collaboration. Which is why IMA is built on a simple belief that we are stronger together.
अब वक्त आ गया हिंदुस्तान का स्पोर्ट्स में शाइन करने का. ये अगले 10-12 साल हमारे से कोई नहीं ले सकता स्पोर्ट्स में. और आई एम गेम एक ऐसा मंच है जो जैसे सारे पिलर्स को एक साथ इकट्ठा कर रहे हैं ताकि जो ये एक मोमेंटम बिल्ड करने की जरूरत है.
A major focus of the discussion was on improving the financial structure of Indian sports, from funding grassroots programs to ensuring job security and long-term support for athletes. Narayan Singh's report for DD India, Delhi.
An Olympian Antim Pangal and Harshita Moore won gold medals at the ranking series wrestling competition in Hungary. Antim Pangal beat Natalia 7-4 in the final in Budapest for her second international gold this year. Harshita won India's second gold medal of the day in the 72 kilograms category. She defeated four-time Asian champion Zamila of Kazakhstan in the final round. Meanwhile, Neha Sangwan had to settle for silver in the 57 kilograms after a 4-0 loss against the former Olympic champion Helen Maroulis. India's women wrestlers picked up 4 medals, including 2 gold, silver and a bronze on Friday. Indian Grandmaster Arjun Erigesi has been knocked out of the freestyle chess Grand Slam after a 0-2 defeat against Levon Aronian in the semi-final in Las Vegas. Aronian won the first game when Arjun could not capitalize on his advantage. In the return game, Aronian needed only a draw to advance. The game seemed headed for a draw, but Arjun, needing a win to stay in the match, took unwarranted risks that cost him dearly. Erigesi had become the first Indian to reach the last 4 stage of the tournament with a stellar performance. Hans Niemann of the United States was the other player to reach the finals. The Delhi Premier League is back with its second season starting on August 2nd. It is one of India's most popular local cricket leagues and has given young stars like Ayush Badoni and Digvesh Rathi a big break. Players are training ahead of the tournament while defending champions East Delhi Riders are ready to defend their title. A report by DD India correspondent Narayan Singh.
The much-anticipated second season of the Delhi Premier League is all set to kick off from August 2, reigniting the passion of cricket lovers in the capital. Considered one of the most sought-after domestic cricket leagues in the country, DPL has quickly built a reputation for unearthing young talent and offering them platform to shine. The league has already produced impressive names like Digvesh Rathi, Priyansh Sharia and Ayush Badoni, who went on to make headlines in the Indian Premier League. India international Navdeep Saini, who has closely followed the league's progress, called DPL a wonderful platform for budding talent.
ये काफ़ी बड़ा मंच है क्योंकि अभी लास्ट ईयर जब डीपीएल हुई थी तो उसके बाद से जिन्होंने परफॉर्मेंस दिया है डीपीएल में तो उसके बाद देखिए कितने लड़के आईपीएल में पीक हुए उसके इस वजह से इस साल भी जब होगी तो सबको पता है कि यार हम अगर इसमें परफॉर्मेंस देते हैं तो आने वाला जो आईपीएल होगा उसकी ऑक्शन होगी उसके लिए हमारे चांसेस बहुत ज़्यादा हैं.
Ahead of the new season, players are sweating it out in intense training camps across the city. With the teams preparing rigorously and scouts watching closely, competition is expected to be stiffer than ever. Defending champions East Delhi Riders will look to retain their title, while other franchisees are determined to rewrite the script.
If you see the numbers, TV rights and everything and sponsorship, I think Delhi Premier League was among the top 2 in the very first year, which is a commendable job done by DDCA and the league committee. It is fantastic and I'm sure it's going to go way beyond any other league in India.
With a successful first season already in the books and growing interest from fans and selectors alike, Delhi Premier League Season 2 promises to be bigger, bolder and brighter, setting the stage for the next generation of cricketing stars. It is becoming a big brand as it has given a multiple stars like Priyansh Sharia to the Indian team. Even the players like Anuj Rawat were also the part of the Indian Premier League. So it's going to be big this season. This is the season 2 and hoping that like season 1, it will once again will give many more players to the IPL and to the country also. With camera person Sumit, Narayan Singh, DD India, Delhi.
Kurdish weddings in Turkey are vibrant celebrations that bring together hundreds of guests. These events are not only significant for the couple, but also represent an important cultural tradition for the Kurds, Turkey's largest ethnic and linguistic minority. Hours of dancing and music are a central part of the celebration, showcasing Kurdish cultural heritage.
لا 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 رشو ويا سيبان
That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day for those on the go. You can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on your screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Sandhayak from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.